It's an easy pet to take care of, but there are some strings attached.
It's art time with Mr. Mayberry. Let's get busy.
Welcome to Art Time with Mr. Mayberry. A marionette is a type of a puppet that has strings or wires and is controlled from above. Today I'm going to show you how to make a marionette of a bird. So let's get started. It's time to make some art. For this project, I've tried to use materials that are inexpensive and hopefully accessible, something that won't be too hard to find. Let me go through a list of things here that I have to make the puppet. I'm going to be using scissors today, and I'll be using masking tape. I'll be using a ruler. You'll need a yardstick or something to be able to measure longer the pieces of string that we'll use to hold the puppet up. Also a pencil, and that's going to be used to make some holes in the foam. I'm using 2 foam cups. These are 8-ounce cups. I'm using 2 7-inch dessert plates, foam plates. I'm using a lid so I can trace a circle. This one's 4.5 inches. Something in that size or close to that size would be good. Using 2 popsicle sticks or tongue depressors, the wider kind. This is for our controller. And then here's the string that will be to hold the puppet up, and you can use thread also for this if you'd rather, but I'm using just yarn for this, black yarn. It's nice to use a darker color because that helps hide the strings as you use it. So if you have a darker color, that would be best. This is I have 4 pieces of this. I have a 16-inch piece, long piece, and that's to hold up the head, to support the head of the bird. I have an 18-inch piece, and that's to support the body. And then I have 2 24-inch pieces, and that is to tie on to the legs so that we can control the legs, make the legs move. Now, these are just what I'm starting with. Now, if it's somewhere close to that, that'll be fine. You'll have to make adjustments on your puppet to get it to move just right. But that's a good way to start, those measurements. And then I'm using a little bit thicker yarn. You can just use regular yarn if you like, but I'm using a thicker one because it's more substantial. You can see it better. It's still lightweight because it's yarn. But this is going to be for the neck and then for the legs. For the legs, it's going to be 1 piece that will be used for both legs, and I'm using a piece that is 14 inches long. Okay, and then I'm also, for the neck, using a piece of this that is 8 inches long. Alright, and then some other things on the bird. We're going to have tail feathers, and I picked out, you can use whatever color you like. I'm using blue for this one today. This is for the feathers on the head and feathers on the tail. This is a 6-inch piece for the tail, and this is 4-inch for the head. This is copy paper. I like that because it's nice and bright and it's sturdy. You could also use construction paper if that's what you have to use. And then also for the eyes, again, I'm using copy paper. And the eyes I'm making about 1 3/4 inches. That's a square that size. I'm going to cut a circle, put these together and cut out 2 circles. So something about that size for the eyes. And then the beak is 8 inches by 2 inches, and I'll be folding that in half and then cutting that. Also, I'll be using a marker, and this is to draw the eyes, the pupils on the eyes. And so that's a list of materials. That's quite a few things. But if you can also make substitutes if you have something else available that will work. You can substitute some of those things. But let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to start with the body. So I'm going to use one of the 7-inch plates for the body. And to start off with, I'm going to make some holes here. Number 1, I want come down from the top. This is actually, I'm going to have the plate turned to use the back will be facing us. I'm going to put a hole up here about 1 inch from the top. This is going to be where the support string will be, the support wire, the support yarn. So I'm just using my pencil. Be careful not to hurt yourself, poke yourself with the end of the pencil, but you make a hole there big enough to put the yarn in. And we'll start with that piece. It's going to be the one that is 18 inches long. Okay, so once I have the hole, I don't know if you can hear that, but I have birds that are nearby chirping, so that's going to add some ambiance to this lesson. Okay, I've got the yarn here. I'm going to put it over the hole, and then I'm going to poke through with the pencil. I'm going to push it on through, push the yarn through till it goes out on the other side. And then I pull that through, and then I'm going to tie that to the other piece. So I'll tie it twice. I'll tie it once here, pull kind of tight, and then wrap it around and tie it again. So I double knot it. And we'll be able to trim these up when we get done. I wouldn't worry about that at first, just in case we need to undo it or change the size. So that's the first step. So that'll hold the body up, support the body. And then the next step will be we'll put where the feet are going to go. And that's going to be down here at the bottom. And I want to make them about 2 inches apart. So I'm going to try to line it up so they find out about where the center is. You might make a little mark, and then if you have center figured out, then you can line up and go an inch from each center on either side, and that's where the holes should be for the legs. Okay, so I'm going to poke. Again, be careful not to poke yourself. I'm going to poke the pencil into the foam. That one went all the way through, which is okay because this is the larger yarn. That's one thing, when you can start off making a smaller hole, and then you may find out that it needs to be a little bit larger to put the yarn through. But I already know that this one's, I'm using a larger piece, so I'm going to make a larger hole here. Okay, and we're going to thread the yarn through there, and I'm using the 14-inch piece of the thicker yarn. And what I've done is I've taken some masking tape after I've cut it and after I cut the yarn, I wrapped the masking tape around to make the ends smaller so that it could be threaded through, almost like a shoelace. And so I'm going to thread it through the front, and then I'm going to go over on the back to the other hole. Okay, and I pull that through, and then here's where you'll have to make adjustment so that you can get them about the same size. Okay, so that looks pretty good there. Alright, and then once I have them in place, then I can go ahead to help secure that. I'm going to use some masking tape and tape that down. I'm just going to put it on there across it. Might put a couple pieces, but the idea is just so it doesn't slide around on you as you're using the puppet. Okay, so I've taped that in place. Then turn it back around, and then I'm going to attach the feet. Remember, the cups are going to be the feet. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to make a hole in the center of the top of the cup. I'm using my pencil, and just kind of twirl it around. Start with a little hole, and then you can make it larger. Again, for this size yarn, I need the thickness of the pencil, so I'm just going to make it that thick. Then I'm going to thread this yarn through. I'm going to pull it through, and I'm going to make a knot. Pull that tight, and the idea of the knot is that way the cup won't come off. It won't pull through. So I'm going to pull it back so it's kind of snug there. And there's one leg. Okay. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the other. Okay, and then I'm going to pull this back out. And there you go. There's my puppet's feet. we'll set that aside for a minute, and we'll make the puppet controller. Now I'm going to be using 2 popsicle sticks, 2 tongue depressors, just wider sticks, to make this controller. And I want to make it first, it's going to be shaped like a cross, and so in order to kind of hold it in place until we get it taped down completely, I'm going to just roll a piece of tape, take a short piece, and the sticky side is out. I'm going to roll it around, and that's just going to help hold this on while I'm taping it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on about how far I think that needs to come down. It's about 2 inches, probably center from the top. And then I'm going to line this up so it looks like it's in the center. I'm going to take a piece, about a 2-inch piece, and here's this cross piece is on top, so I'm going to go over it and attach that to the other stick. And kind of press down so it wraps around it nice and tight. Okay. And then I'm going to turn it on the back and go across horizontally, across that way. Okay, so that's on front and back. Now to make that even more secure, I'm going to take some more 2-inch pieces and I'm going to wrap them around above and below, and then also on the sides. This cross piece should be on top of our controller, so that's the direction it's going to face. We're going to be just taping the strings, the controlling strings, to the corners of the 4 ends of these sticks here. Set that aside for just a minute. And the next thing we'll come back to the body here in a minute too. I think the next thing we're going to do is to make the head of the bird. And so I'm going to take my other 7-inch plate and I'm going to take the 4.5-inch lid, trace around this. Okay, so it's made a groove as well as the pencil line, and I'm going to cut out this. Foam plates are not really expensive, but at the same time you don't want to be wasteful, so just take your time cutting and do a good job with that. Now it has a little bit of a curve on the back, so this is going to actually be the front of the face. And for this, what I want to do first is I'm going to make a hole up here towards the top, and this is where it's going to attach. I'm coming down not quite an inch, more like 3/4 of an inch from the top, and I'm going to make a little hole for the support string, the support yarn. Don't make a real big one on this because this is going to be a smaller yarn that we're using, smaller width of yarn. And so for the head, I'm using a 16-inch piece of the black yarn. And just like I did with the body, I'm going to put the yarn over the hole, and then I use the pencil to kind of press it down into the hole to get it started. Kind of poke it down in there, and then you can pull it through on the other side. Okay, so after I have that done, I'm going to tie it. Okay, again, the curved side here is the front. I'm going to go ahead and put the facial features on here. Put both squares, 1.5 1 3/4 squares together. Somewhere between 1.5 and 2 inches would be good for this. And then I'm going to cut circles about as big as I can on this size paper. Stick them in place up here towards the top, just like that. This is kind of a goofy bird, so you can make the eyes, the pupils in different spots, or you can make them in the center, however you want to put them. Just like that. Okay, next comes the beak. And for the beak, they have an 8-inch by 2-inch, and I'm going to fold it in half. Orange makes a nice bright color for the beak, but again, you could choose whatever colors you would like to use. I folded that in half, and then I'm going to start here holding these both together, just like that, And I'm going to start at a point and curve around to the outside, just like that. Then I'm going to turn it over and do the other half. And I'm trying to make it symmetrical, so I'm trying to cut out almost like a mirror image of the first cut. So I'm trying to make it curve out both directions the same way so that it looks even going out and around. And that's not too bad right there. Okay, and then I'm going to tape this under the eyes. It's going to stick out below the bottom, which is going to be great because it'll make it look more 3D even. Alright, so there's the beak, and you can open it. So it's open like that, and it'll move some as you move your puppet, so that's good. So I'm going to turn the controller this direction so that I can attach the head to the front part here. Okay, so there's the front. Now the back is we're going to do the same thing with it. Okay, so there's the front and the back are attached. When I pick it up, they're just kind of floating loose from each other. We need to attach those together. I'm going to put a hole in the center of the body right here, and this is for a big piece of yarn, so I can make it the width of this pencil. I can make it wider. Okay, so I'm going to poke this in through right there, and then on the back and pull it through a little bit. I'm going to wrap it around and make a knot so it's secure, it doesn't come back out there. And I'm going to pull it snug like that, and then I'm going to turn around. I'm going to make a knot on the front. Okay, so there's a knot on the back and one on the front, and that secures that line so that it doesn't slip either way. Okay, next step is going to be to take the other end, and we're going to fasten it to the bottom on the back of the head. Okay, so the bird's head is now connected to the body with the neck. Let's go ahead and let's add the feathers for the tail and for the head. Let's do that next. So what I'm going to do, we'll start with the head. So I'm going to use the 4-inch square. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, you don't have to measure this, but you can if you'd like. I'm going to come in 1 inch from the bottom on the right, about where I think 1 inch is, and I'm going to cut at an angle up to the corner on the right, just like that. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other half. I'm going to come in about 1 inch from the left, and I'm going to cut over to the corner on the left. And then what I want to do is I'm going to cut lines in this top part. This is going to be like feathers sticking up, and this part's going to attach to the back of the head. Okay, like that. Okay, now I want to make it look like these have a curl to it. So what I'm going to do is take the pencil and roll from the end, the short end, all the way down. Just roll it up like that, and then pull your pencil out. You can, we'll straighten it out just a little bit, but we want, that way it has a curve to it, which looks kind of neat. And so I'm going to fasten this to the back of the head like this. Okay, so that makes the feathers stick up higher there. But I like that curl, that curve there. And that'll move around as we move our puppet too, so that'll look really neat. Okay, so that's the head and the head feathers. Now we're going to do tail feathers the same way. There's the head and the body as I pull this up. See the tail feathers. Let's turn it sideways so you can get a good look at that too. There's the tail feathers and the feathers on the back of the head. Okay, and then we're almost done. Okay, so here's what it looks like. And then we're going to put the controllers, this control strings on the legs. Alright, now for this I've got two 24-inch pieces of yarn. So now what I have to do is find the midpoint between the plate and the cup, between the body and the foot. So I find the middle, and that's where I'm going to wrap one end of this yarn around and tie it to what's a kneecap, is where we're going to tie this, where the knee is. Okay. So there it is attached. Again, I'm not going to cut that off until I get it all working. I want to make sure that it's going to work right. Okay. Same thing to the other side. Okay, and then making sure your controllers turn the right way, we're going to fasten the other end of the string, other end of the yarn, to the top of the controller. You have to take care not to tangle it. So you have to be careful when you set it down and careful when you pick it up so that you don't get all your strings tangled up. Okay, attach that down there. Should be able to make it move now. I'm going to lift it up like that, and then I can, when you lift, you tilt the controller one way or the other, you can make the legs go. Just like that. Okay, go around and trim up your excess yarn. After you have the controller working right, then you can fasten more tape to hold that, secure that down. And that's our project for today, a bird marionette. Well, now that you have a marionette, pick out a song and practice making up a dance routine for your puppet. Thanks for coming to art class, and I'll see you next time.
See you later. Hi, bye.